Yo, how's it going, guys? It's Richard Unicorn Caller here, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We are back, and we have another top 10 video for you guys, or from you guys, right? For the community, for you. But yeah, you guys made some really great ideas. I read every single person's comment, and we're gonna jump right into it. So this is gonna be great. By the way, side note also that I kind of like everybody can text in YouTube now. Like usually I clean out the block list like every month or so. So everybody can comment, everybody can leave a idea. And if you have more ideas, feel free to let me know in the comments below. But let's just jump right into it in no particular order. So this one that comes in from Punky-TAR, and they had mentioned that they want the solo experience for the game to be a little bit easier. Lately, it's been a lot harder to really solo this game, and they also mentioned how they would appreciate a break from yearly world releases, which is also another thing that's actually been popular with the community over time. A lot of people have expressed that they wouldn't mind a year off of worlds, maybe just like a year dedicated to fixing bugs, glitches, or just focusing on the quality of life for the game. Now, obviously, it's not a popular idea. Not everybody would be accustomed to that because, everybody wants to play a world every year. But it is a pretty decent idea, in my opinion. And I honestly would love to see it because, as we guys know, and especially with the spring update, it really would be cool to just see them at least take a break from making a world and just kind of focus on, the livelihood of the game. But again, that's just a pretty cool idea. And again, for the solo experience, it has become a little bit harder. I actually somehow soloed the final boss of the Hidden Temple Gauntlet. I don't know how. I was just spamming Wings of Fate in my healing gear, and it was actually really fun. But yeah, the solo experience could be a lot better, right? Now, this one, the number two idea, this comes in from Ramnatsuki 792. And they mentioned that they would love the return of Lore Master farming, which, if you guys don't know, many years ago they kind of got rid of spell drops from Lore Master. Back in the olden days, you used to farm Lore Master and actually have a chance at getting a spell to be dropped entirely. Like, you didn't need any spellments or anything like that. It would just drop the spell directly. But ever since the spellments came out and they kind of transitioned from there, you don't really see a whole lot of people, at least from what I've seen, farming Lore Master, or at least it's not really a fun farm anymore because, well, you can't really get a spell from it, so what's the point of even doing it anymore, right? I think that would be a great idea and also encourage people to farm Lore Master again, right? In my personal opinion. And also, gold key drops should return because the new ways to get gold keys are just generally not motivating, especially if it has to deal with something with day 15 of daily assignments or something with Beast or something with Decathlon. Just getting gold keys in general isn't encouraging. It would be cool to see them kind of release them back into the loot pool for stuff like especially Graveyard Darkmoor, where that wasn't even a problem to begin with. But like I said, usually with these updates they transition a lot of things out and they phase a lot of things out, and sometimes that can do a lot more harm than good. But I think that's a fantastic idea. And also emotes being accessible for all your characters on the same account, which would also be really cool as well. If you guys don't know, all the emotes that you have are for per character. So this $30 emote I got from the Technomancer bundle is only going to be available for this character. So if I went on my Fire or my Storm, I can't use this emote, right? So it would be cool to kind of see that be account wide instead of just one character, per character. But maybe that's just a coding issue on KI, and maybe they just generally can't do that, right? And also, mount and pet stitching, or as Shadow Wears has mentioned, is kind of a bad name for mounts and pets. Sounds kind of creepy, but perhaps morphing or polymorphing could be a word for a transmogrification system or a transmog system for pets, because you have all these really gorgeous pets, but let's say I didn't want to use the Dryad pet, but I still wanted to remain the stats, you know, I still wanted to retain those stats, but just change the pet body. That would be a pretty cool idea. And of course, KI can charge crowns for it, just like they already do with regular stitching, and same thing with mounts, you know. But I think that would be also a pretty cool idea, right? Like I said, you guys have really cool ideas. Like, this is awesome. All right, so for number 3, and like I said, there's in no particular order. I was just listing these down. This comes in from Rachel Kennedy, 3071, and they have a pet collar idea, which basically you can craft collars for your mounts that give stat bonuses. This is also a pretty interesting idea. I doubt KI would ever do it, because Rachel also mentioned that they have a fear that they would, you know, over monetize it a little bit, which also I agree. I feel like KI would somehow mess that up, because usually they want to make some money, which is, you know, fair. They are a business, unfortunately. They do gotta make some money. But to make a pet collar, though, or a mount collar, perhaps, I should say that, mount collar, or pet collars that give you additional stat bonuses, that would be cool. Now, it would be also cool if we could have jewel slots for mounts as well. That would also be a pretty cool idea. Will we ever see that? I have no idea. But, you know, some people just don't want to run around with their 2% damage Gulcher mount or whatever it is. Maybe they want to change the style of it. Or a transmog system, like we just said, for pets and mounts and whatnot. That would also be pretty cool as well. And then we have number 4, the number 4th idea. This comes in from Crazed Mancer 2122, and they have an idea for mount racing, which would be kind of similar to Pet Derby, I assume, but another pretty awesome idea. I don't know if that would be something KI would consider. I don't even know they got technology for that, but it would be cool. And then over here, I have a little bit of a idea combo. That what if mount racing drops pet collars, which we just talked about. That would be also pretty cool. You know, that's pretty cool, man. That would be pretty cool. All right, number 5 comes in from the infamous Shadow Wares, or Shadow Ears. Sorry about that, Shadow Ears. And their idea is the ability to transfer treasure cards to one character to another on the same exact account. Now, obviously, you can just make some sort of alt account and then just do it that way. But if you're someone like me that likes to play on just one character and just one account, and you don't feel like having a bunch of windows on your monitor of every single wizard, because it does get a little confusing at some point, then yeah, I think it would be safe to say that we could have the function to just transfer treasure cards to one character to another. That would be a pretty cool idea. At the moment, there's no way to really put treasure cards, well, really anywhere, unfortunately. So I don't know, and again, I don't know if KI had the technology to do that, or if it goes against their philosophies, because KI has also mentioned how they don't want people to hoard treasure cards. That's why they made a decathlon event, but then a lot of people don't do the decathlon event, and then it becomes a whole, you know, situation. But that's a really good idea, and honestly, that would save me a lot of heartache if I could just do that without having to switch through multiple accounts, right? That would be cool. But pretty cool idea. All right, so number 6. This comes in from Gary-15B. And this is concerning training points. So they think that the training point buyback should have a better interface, which I think we can all agree on. Could be a lot better for unlearning specific spells. Training point, you know, preset idea would also be pretty cool. So maybe you wouldn't have to run around and collect every single spell. Instead, you could just have it as a training point preset where, you know, you can reset your training points, but still retain the... What is this dude's mount? He's like frozen in time. What is this? This dude's not even... Why? What are we doing? I love this game, man. He's not even have a moving animation. Oh my gosh. Hey man, it's Wizard101. You gotta love it, man. We're in the commons. We got that is awesome, man. Hey. It's the Wiz, man. But getting back to Gary's training point idea, this would be pretty cool. And in general, we do need a lot more training points. In general. I mean, that's just something that I think all players need. But pretty cool idea coming in from Gary. Let me know if you guys also have any complaints about training points, because I know with the recent spring update we just had concerning spellments and all that stuff, there was a really big concern about training points, because quite honestly, we're kind of running out of training points if you're someone that raids a lot, or you're someone that PvPs a lot and you like to dual school a lot. You know, this whole update kind of just messes a lot of things up. So let me know if you also have concerns about that as well. But good idea from Gary. And then this comes in from Clifford. I don't know if this was an idea, but I wanted to include him because he's a really... I actually like playing with Clifford. He's a fellow Death Wizard, and I love my Death Wizards. And he's a great player. It's just unfortunate that these changes kind of are negative towards him and a lot of other players. Like I said, you know, this game is really transitioning to a lot of things, and including these spell changes. And they mentioned how he wishes that they would kind of revert some of the spell changes, that they might not be interesting for everyone, which I can also agree on. And I think that has to do in part with not only PvP but also raids, and the problem with raids and PvP not having separate kind of spell separations. It's kind of like when they change a spell, it's like a global change, which also affects PvE players that might not even do PvP or raids or advanced content to begin with, but they still kind of get stuck with that, you know? They just kind of get the short end of the straw. I will show you one spell that was pretty cool back in the day, and this was Guardian Spirit. Now, Guardian Spirit obviously has been PvP banned for obvious reasons, but one thing they also did is remove the fact how you could get a critical off of it. Now, I don't know if they mentioned if that was a bug after so many years, quote unquote, you know, if that was a bug or not. But what was cool about this is that if you did get a critical, it would basically, you know, revive the player for way more than just 15% of health. I thought it was honestly a really, really cool mechanic, and it made me use Guardian Spirit a lot. But, you know, ever since they did that change, I don't ever use this spell ever, because 15%, in my opinion, is a little low. I mean, it's still good to have just in case you have that one little squishy wizard, especially for y'all Stormheads, to get defeated. But at the same time, I do miss that little critical, you know. There's actually a lot of spells in this game that they have changed. Some of them I like Unicorn got buffed. I like how they buffed that. That's nice. You know, I don't care if they ban it from PvP or whatever, because, you know, quite frankly, healing in raids isn't really existent, you know? But, again, like Clifford said, it would be kind of cool to see some of these spell changes revert. And especially with the whole Shadow Pack system, where now, if you have a Shadow spell, you have to fuse it together because the main base of it doesn't have the Shadow Pip anymore, but it will do less damage. So that's when you have to fill up your deck with more spells. You know, it's a whole thing. You know, and that kind of goes into another point where a lot of people might prefer this game, or to have Wizard101 Classic. I think World of Warcraft has it, where they have like Classic mode or whatever, but I know a lot of people had that idea for so many years just because, you know, some of these changes might not be the best for everybody, and some people might not be, you know, prone or happy about some of these changes. Some people might feel nostalgic, but again, Clifford, I would love to play with you, man. I would love to get you rating, but I understand that the game, especially with the Empower changes and all that stuff, Dark Pack changes, no, that stuff hurts, man. But hopefully they change it someday. One day. Maybe one day. I don't know. Pretty cool stuff. Alright, so number 8, this comes in from Iraq Tartanga. Sorry if I mispronounce anybody's usernames. I apologize, and I'm sure you guys can imagine how difficult these names might be to pronounce. But 4032, they mentioned that they let players pick more than one school with ease, which also kind of ties in with dual schooling, which is also pretty cool. Double training points, which that would be a huge game changer. That would be a huge game changer to have like double training points and new gear combinations, right? Or a new gear combination mechanic, maybe where you can combine gear. I think that's what they mentioned in their comment. That would also be a pretty cool idea. But again, I don't know if KI, if that goes up against their philosophy, or if they have the technology to do that, and if they are thinking about doing that, and if they were, thinking about it, like, how would they do it? But it is a really, really cool idea. A very cool idea. I would hope to see that happen. And especially for double training points. And in general, just to combo off of this idea, I think that if you have enough spellments for a spell, regardless if it's a lore spell or a regular spell, I think that you should be able to permanently unlock it with those spellments. And that way, that would encourage a lot of players to farm spellments for all spells, meaning that you could potentially be a wizard that has a good majority of spells that aren't exclusive. In my opinion, I think that's a great idea, but again, that might go up against KI's philosophies on what they, want to do. I think it would be a cool idea, but for other people, it might not be a cool idea. And that's the thing for all your guys' ideas. Even though I'm saying that they're great, there's going to be a percent of people that might not like these changes, which is totally fine. But hear me. At least you guys have my support. You guys have my vote. I think all these ideas are great, right? All right, so number 9 comes in from It's Shack. And this is talking about the increase of housing spaces up to 500. He says they can't really enjoy other things. Well, I'm just assuming people's gender. Apologies. But they can't enjoy other things in the game with a dumb A limiter. Yeah, which is true. It's true. You can't really play the game when there's a lot of limits, right? And that could go into a lot of things, such as the energy cap that was paused at level 130 for literally no reason. I mean, they really gave no reason. I think they mentioned something about mobs or something, but it's like, dude, like, we should have way more than just like 130 base energy. I don't know. I just think that was like kind of a weird thing to do. Like it didn't bother me as much, but like now that I'm raiding, I'm using a lot of energy, and I'm just like, okay, like what value did that do? Maybe perhaps to buy more energy elixirs? Question mark. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'll stop. I know the Wiz defenders don't like it when I bash the game too much. I'll stop. But it would be cool to see the increase of a housing space. Now, they did sometime, or at least do something similar to that with the spring update, where you can buy an additional bric-a-brac elixir in the crown shop if you're already at the cap for a certain house that you're on. So, which is pretty cool. And this will increase it to plus 50. But I think the main point should be not to sell the solution for the problem that you created, but also kind of make the solution something that can help everybody in general. And that's kind of what KI does. They make a problem, for example, spellments, and then they sell a solution, which is spellment packs. And that's just kind of the harsh reality of it, unfortunately, right? Where are the spellment packs? I think I gotta scroll all the way down. Yep, there's one. The Wisteria spellment pack, the Celestian spellment pack, the Road Warrior spellment pack. So many spellment packs, man. Oh my gosh. You kind of get the point, I want them to stop creating problems and selling a solution. I want them to stop creating problems or be retroactive about it. And I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm probably confusing a lot of you guys. But as Shaq said, it would be cool to see them increase a lot of things in this game. including the housing space, especially for castle decorators. And again, like I said, I don't know if that goes against their philosophy. I have no idea. And now for the last comment, which is from me because I couldn't find another idea. I think everybody got tired of it. For my idea, for the last one, number 10, allow more than 2 enemies in a combat sigil if you solo. And I know this sounds super weird, but I'll tell you, I was farming those iRobots in Lemuria. And I can't tell you how frustrating it is just to only get 2 at a time. You know, I think they should allow an option to allow 4 mobs at a time, especially if there's defeat quests where you have to defeat 4 at a time or whatever, or you have to defeat 4 or collect something. I think that would be a pretty cool idea. And again, I don't know if they have the technology for that, and I don't know if that goes up against their philosophy. But honestly, I think that would kind of make questing, you know, if you had the option. I'm not saying it should be a universal change. Like, I want like a little toggle switch. Like, would you like to have more than 2 mobs? Like a toggle switch. Like, yes or no. Yes or no. Like, and it should be at no by default, right? But for me, for someone that makes a lot of raid keys, like, you guys think I'm just talking. I will show you, if you look on the screen, how many raid keys I have made. Wait, I just had it. Wait, my bad. Look how many raid keys I have. Look at this. Look at all these raid keys I have. Look at this. We're using a Ghastly Conspiracy raid key today. But look how much I've been making. Do you guys know how much Animus I have? Do you guys know how much Animus I have? Where's pockets full of Animus? I have collected 42,896 total Animus. Do you guys know how many battles that is? That is insane. That's insane. I honestly shouldn't be making anymore. But for some reason, it's become this little obsession of mine, making these raid keys that I'm probably not going to use anytime soon, because KI has kind of made raiding a dead content, in a sense. Now, obviously, people still raid. There's still some guilds out there, but with each update, it's making it imperatively very difficult to go raiding, especially with the Spellman update, especially with the guild cooldown, especially with the guild spaces being only at 60 max accounts. I kind of just have to wait until people just get bored of the guild and leave the guild themselves, because if I kick someone that has a Z, then they'll come online out of nowhere and be like, oh, why did you kick me? Why did you kick me from the guild? Like, they just magically poof out of nowhere, like a Harry Potter spell, and then they just get mad at me. So that's why I don't kick anybody anymore. I let the lieutenants do that if they really need space. There's people in here that have alt accounts that shouldn't even be in the guild because they don't even raid with them in the guild, but that's only if we need space. But even then, if I were to remove this Wolf Ghost Gem person, I think is one of our viewers, right? They haven't been online since, I believe, February the 1st. If I did that, they would come online magically and yell at me, and then it would be a whole thing. So that's why I just don't remove anybody from the guild. But a solution for that would just be to increase the guild size, right? But again, that goes up against KI's philosophies, and obviously they probably couldn't do it because of technology. But I do digress on my original idea. I think we should allow more than 2 enemies in the combat sigil, especially if you're someone that has to farm for a lot of Animus. But that is all 10 of the awesome ideas that you guys have made, and I just wanted to say thank you guys for you know, making your comments heard, making your voice heard. That's why we make these videos, so you guys can be heard. And then we can hope, you know, obviously, hopefully see these changes, you know, in the future, which I highly doubt. I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. Realistically, you know, the way that KI operates, you know, these are nice little spitball brainstorm ideas, but, you know, at the end of the day, this is all for fun. Like, we'll just, you know, just be real with y'all. This is all for fun, right? Maybe we'll see something like that change. I don't know. But until then, I will see you guys later, and I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And like I said, if you guys have more ideas, I will write them down, and we can do this more as a series. So, yeah, until then, peace out.